You just can't let emotions or people, or either that people you're never going to meet, rule over you. I mean, Donald Trump is the biggest landowner in the world because he lives rent-free in people's minds. And he doesn't care if anybody is thinking about him. All he knows, he won the presidency. And now people are trying to treat him into something that he is not. And there's a reason why we got him, by previous failures of politicians and nobody really acting serious during the last election.
Are you going through life blind? This is Eyes Wide Open with Nick Thompson. On this podcast, we share knowledge and stories that build human connection while elevating stigmatized societal issues such as mental health, holistic wellness, culture, free speech, and more, all to ensure we show up in the world with our eyes wide open. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Eyes Wide Open. I have a familiar face here. He's been a guest several times before, Kit Kabello. Kit is the co-founder and host of Hard Lens Media, which is an independent news network and show that is daily at 9 a.m. Central Time based here in Chicago, but we cover, you cover global news. But thanks for coming back on the show today to recap our wonderful election that we're still coming out of. How are you today?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, and sorry if my video seems a little bit choppy. I think it's my end. So, but as long as you guys can hear me just fine, great to see you. Always with the budgetary and technology, the systems always suck, folks. But nonetheless, yeah. So you joined us on one of our most popular live streams that we've done, and it was in regards to covering how the election was playing out on November 5th. We had a wide range of guests across the political spectrum. We had conservatives, progressives, independents, socialists on our show. And, looking at how the entire election was playing out between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I mean, the one thing is abundantly clear. No matter who wins, the establishment has its final say. Wall Street has the final say. The big banks have the final say. And I think so many people now are disillusioned, triggered, upset, and are having real social meltdowns. And on the one hand, yes, I am laughing at some of these meltdowns, but on the other hand, too, folks, I do pause, and my brain says, this isn't funny. This person's having a real mental breakdown. And I actually saw one live. When I went to pick up my mother and stepfather at O'Hare Airport, somebody actually really had a full-on meltdown about the election at O'Hare Airport. And it was, look, I love dark humor. I love comedy. On the one hand, I didn't laugh. I didn't smirk. Inside, I was laughing. And then my conscience took it better of me. This person's really letting politics control their lives. And it is... I look at it with humor and then with dread, and I wonder what happened to you to where you are letting this political system control every aspect and emotion, and you thinking that it's the end of the world when it's not. There's always going to be another election. These politicians, they're all scumbags, but guess what? Nothing is going to end. We are still going to be okay, but when you resign yourself to having these tantrums and then saying online that I am going to be verbally assaulting and yelling at men, even people who you don't know how they voted, or cutting off ties with family. And please, if I'm ranting too on, just cut me off here. But
no, this is
no. But then you're saying, I want to cut off relations with my family. Social media is a wonderful tool, but it's not your therapist, and the internet is immortal. You've been in this business. You have been in show business. You know firsthand that when those cameras go on and they get shared on television, radio, the internet, it's up there forever. It's not going away, and people are going to look at this, and how you represent yourself is just like how you represent yourself going outside. It's what my grandfather and my mother said to me. When you walk outside this house, you are representing our household, our family, our values. You're representing who we are. You're representing who you are. And when you do that on the internet, you're showing the world, especially these people who have meltdowns, that you are a person that should be avoided, not talked to, and that you do need to seek professional help. I cover politics too. I've been covering politics for 7 years. And, the one thing I've learned is, okay, time to disconnect, time to pour myself a glass of wine or go for a run, drink some water, observe nature, read a book. You got to unplug yourself. And I blame corporate media. I blame their fear factoring, they're putting in this fear of the other, the politicians. And I blame the politicians themselves for creating this environment and landscape. And so when that person was having a meltdown, when I finally came back from O'Hare, which surprisingly, a little bit different subject note, that was the fastest I ever got to O'Hare Airport and coming back, because normally there's traffic. You live in Chicago. For me,
oh my God, it's a nightmare.
I was like, what's going on here? These roads are clear, and I'm making good time. So
that was a miracle. I just got back yesterday from a trip out to Las Vegas, and I take the Blue Line, which is, not a pleasurable experience.
No, it's not.
But I can't F around with that traffic.
No.
Going there, coming back, it's too much stress. Because you're worried about making your flight, and then on the way home, you're worried about just getting home, and it's unnecessary stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you caught a miracle.
I have no idea how that happened. The dice rolled in my favor. I had a royal flush in my hand. Boom, winning. So there you go. And yes, I've taken the Blue Line too, coming home when I flew back from Japan. Talk about a downgrade from Japan's super railways to what we have here. But back on point, what was really weighing on my mind when I finally got home is some of these people having meltdowns or driving their cars or easy that you don't know really where they're at, to where, okay, if they're really having this meltdown, would they drive their car purposely into somebody else because they see a Trump bumper sticker? Would they physically attack somebody because they assume that they are a third-party voter or a Trump voter? I mean, there's a lot to unpack here about the health and mindset of people and how they let politics control their lives. And I get the fear of Donald Trump, but we survived 4 years of him. Then we survived 4 years of Biden. Now we got another 4 more years of Trump. And I'll give the floor back to you. But what enrages me is that now you're seeing the protesters come out. You're seeing all these people I've seen before.
Deja vu.
It is deja vu. And I'm wondering, where were all of you because the Biden administration wasn't perfect, folks. Where were all of you when you said that you'd promised to be out on the streets if Roe v. Wade was overturned, if Trump did that? And again, there's the excuse of Trump made the Supreme Court, but this happened under Biden. Roe v. Wade died under Biden. Where were the protesters? Where was the anti-war movement? Where were all of you? Where were all of you? And now you're here, and I'm so hesitant to even cover a Trump protest because I've done that since 2017 to 2018, late 2018.
I remember those.
And I just got to say, okay, you're going to be protesting in front of Trump Tower. That's not a government building. Are you going to give that same energy to the Democrats that purposely misled you about Biden's mental health or about Kamala being a fit candidate or anything else of that nature? Like, are you going to give that same fury and energy towards Democratic and Republican politicians, and especially the ones here in Chicago? Are you really going to do that? And I'm concerned that people are just going to let this Trump derangement syndrome get the better of them. So that's my rant. Didn't mean to go too much on that, but there you go.
No. I think what's so frustrating, and by the way, on the meltdowns, I have laughed a lot the last week and a half.
Guilty.
Like I have been guilty. I think I've even shared a few with you. Like they are epic.
They are. And they are funny. It's okay to laugh.
Yes. Now I'm not laughing at this person who's clearly like not okay. But it's just, to me, it's like you said, politics taking over your life and people not having the ability to separate them as a human versus them as a political activist in some way or another. And what I find the most crazy is, one, people are projecting what they're thinking onto other people. Like I posted a video, I think you may have seen it, that was encouraging people to vote. I posted this on Instagram, vote. And it was the day before the election. All the political endorsements were coming out from celebrities on both sides, right? Having these massive final rallies, all of this stuff. It was just constant information, the text messages from both sides coming in, asking for money. And I'm sitting there, or asking for your vote. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. And I live this stuff every day. Like I love politics. I listen to your show. I listen to so many other shows. It's kind of a toxic hobby that I have to like pay attention to this stuff. But people were projecting all over me that this is your privilege. My privilege to tell people to vote. I didn't tell them who to vote for. It's not my business to tell someone who to vote for. It's my business, I think, as someone who has a platform, to encourage people to participate
Yeah.
in our electoral system.
Yes.
Now, I also respect people that don't, but it was like my privilege to say that. I think I was up to like 4,000 followers I lost since that post, 4,000 followers I lost. People sending me these DMs saying, how dare you show your white privilege by posting something like this instead of voting for what's really important for other people. I'm like, the whole point of my vote is if you have the privilege, we'll say, to go vote for somebody else because you don't have economic uncertainty that you live with every day. You don't have to worry about paying your rent or your mortgage or your groceries or whatever that is. And you have the ability to make a social issue your number one issue, or voting for another group of people that may not have things as good as you do. Like, that's fine. My whole point is, like, vote on what matters to you. And I think we need more of that and less of the propaganda telling us who to vote for. And when I tie this back to people having their mental breakdowns, it's sad because, like, these people don't realize that they have been propagandized from everything they turn on the TV to everything they read to everything they see on social media. You're in the algorithm.
Yep.
You're in the algorithm, and you're being propagandized for whichever algorithm you're in, for what you're supposed to like and what you're supposed to dislike, who you're supposed to support, who you're supposed to not support, who you're supposed to love, and who you're supposed to hate. And until we wake up collectively and look at each other as our neighbors, as fellow human beings, that are have their own material conditions that are driving the way that they participate in politics, we are just going to be hating each other. People telling others to cut off family, skip Thanksgiving,
divorce, even encouraging divorcing their husbands. Like,
that's nuts.
That costs money. Legal stuff costs money. Money.
Yeah, it sure does. And I can tell you, divorces are not cheap. They are expensive, especially when it's two people that are like fighting over shared assets and stuff, because I didn't even have any of that. But what blows my mind and what is so upsetting for me to see is how many people are turning on each other and friends and family and circles of people that they care about, instead of, first of all, looking internally and seeing what makes them so angry about all of this. And then secondly, like, recognizing that your family and your friends are your family and friends for many reasons besides their political viewpoints. So I just feel for people. I think they're propagandized and they don't even know it. And then I feel for people who are losing any kind of relationship because of this. We can agree to disagree. Yeah. And we've lost that. We've lost that in this country.
I think for the most part, I've been really lucky with politics in my family and with friendships. And I can proudly say that at least I'm surrounded by a good group of positive, and of course we all have different opinions, well-rounded, educated people that are able to separate politics. But some people don't have that, that blessing, that fortune, that luck, that privilege in its own right. And the closest thing I ever had to falling out with somebody, but we repaired our friendship like a month later. I was in the 2016 election where I was telling a lot of my college friends, and I think I told this story before, first time I was on your show, I was warning them because I was in Philly after what happened at the DNC convention there. Hey, there's a 50-50 chance that Trump could win this. And this was in 2016. And that got a lot of my friends upset. And I got this one article, private message on Facebook, the messenger on Facebook, the app right there. And they sent me this article titled "The Rise of the KKK Under Trump." And they said to me, by you saying what you're saying about Trump winning, you are supporting this. And I texted back to them saying, how dare you? You've known me for about 7 years. 7 years. And this is before Hardlens Media came into existence, because Hardlens Media got started in 2017. So this was 2016. So this was like, so I've known this person for a long time in my college years. And I said, if you really think I support this, then you have no idea who I am. And I'm just giving you a warning. There's a big difference saying I'm going to vote for this person, which I didn't, and saying, hey, there's a heads up that this guy can win this after what I saw. Well,
this is the problem.
And the thing is, we fixed our relationship a month later, because you know what they said to me? Hey, Kit, you were right. The Democrats really did run a terrible campaign. And I forgave them, because that's what a mature, adult, reasonable person does, okay? Like, it takes a lot for me to hate somebody. Like, you really got to hurt me, mentally, emotionally, physically, to cause me to hate you. I can have a disagreement. Nick, you and I can have a disagreement. But I can say, okay, fine. Nick and I have a disagreement. I can't change his mind. He can't change my mind. But I'm more of like, hey, here's my perspective. And Nick, you share your perspective. And at the end of
Yeah.
the day, we go our separate ways because guess what? It's just words and different thoughts and perspectives.
Yeah.
And
also, you should have that.
Yeah.
You should have all sides of information, all
Yes.
sides of perspective, because that's how you change people's mind, and that's free speech.
That's what I tell my audience. I tell my audience, hey, look, when I give my perspective and analysis on politicians, like take for example, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. are going to be part of Trump's administration, and somehow by proxy, I guess, DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency under Elon Musk, they're going to be part of the Trump administration. Now, I have my criticism of those three people, but at the same time, too, when I'm seeing people say, oh, well, they're going to bring in dictatorship and everything else. Well, no, you're not adding to the conversation. You got to show me, like, okay, what is your real legit criticism for these people? And I could say, well, let's look at their stance on money in politics or the wars or corruption or either that previous
the issues that matter to you.
Yeah, the issues that do matter. And you just can't let emotions or people or either that people you're never going to meet rule over you. I mean, Donald Trump is the biggest landowner in the world because he lives rent free in people's minds. And he doesn't care if anybody is thinking about him. All he knows, he won the presidency. And now people are trying to treat him into something that he is not. And there's a reason why we got him, by previous failures of politicians and nobody really acting serious during the last elections. And I stand by that statement. The Clinton campaign was a terrible campaign. The Biden campaign barely won by the skin of its teeth. And then whatever the hell the Democrats were doing this election cycle was abysmal. No primary.
What?
Biden was.
I actually want to talk about that, but I wanted to touch on something else first because well, it was your show actually. I think yesterday that I listened to where I first heard this, and so I want to get to the election. But before that, one thing that what you were really talking about a minute ago, how people, when you were saying, hey, I think Trump's going to win, when you're looking at something like the election objectively, like I look at elections and politics objectively. Yeah. I have my feelings and my thoughts, but I also look at it from like a level up where I'm like, here's what I think is going to happen. And if you remember when we were doing predictions on your show, I was the only one that said, I think this is going to end tonight in a landslide. And everyone else, oh, we're going to take a day. It's going to be 2 days, maybe the end of the week. I was like, there's a chance this ends in a landslide. Yep. And 2 years ago, I made a bet with my buddy Jake. Shout out to Jake. 2 years ago, I made a bet that Trump was going to win and I bet $100. And I asked for the caveat, well, I want out of this if he's in jail or can't run because he's been removed from the ballots. And I got to know it's all or nothing. So I doubled down and I said, fine, I'll take this bet because I see him winning. That doesn't mean I supported Trump. Right. That doesn't mean that I like Trump. I find him entertaining. I think he's hilarious. Yeah. I think it's ridiculous. And I think it's a show with him. But people get mad at me. And even, my buddy at the time or throughout the last 2 years, because I never wavered on this. And I said to him, I'm like, or he said to me, he's like, it sounds like you're for Trump. And I'm like, I'm not for Trump. I voted for Jill Stein, actually. I wrote her name in here in Illinois, knowing that Illinois goes Democrat. And I think if we can get the Green Party some ballot access and matching funds, that would be a great thing for democracy. That would. But people can't separate their feelings and emotions and look at these elections objectively. So me saying for 2 years, I think Trump's going to win, or you saying in 2016 and 2020, and I said the same thing in 2020 and he barely lost. But I don't think people can look at it objectively, especially now because their emotions are so tied up into it. Yep. And that's why we're seeing the breakdowns and the head shavings and people threatening to withhold sexual relations from men. I mean, it's like an epic level of chaotic breakdowns because people can't separate it.
I think also you're seeing how people feel on the inside. I mean, you have, if we're looking at some of these breakdowns, people are kind of revealing who they are too when the chips are down. Like to quote the Joker, when he said, when the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other up. And with Trump coming in, it clearly was a mental health triggering issue. And you hear men and women on TikTok, let's focus on TikTok, who say, oh, if you're a Latino, guess what? We're going to call deportation on you guys, because I did one video, like I did like 2 meltdown collaboration, collage videos, and one person said, "Hey, guess what? You Latinos or your immigrants who supported Trump, guess what? We're gonna if I find out that you did, I'm gonna call immigration services on you." Like, why would you
Jeez.
say that if you said you were an ally? Or either that you're threatening other women, saying, "Oh, women who supported Trump, guess what? I'm going to seduce your husband and do this and do that." Like, oh, okay,
That's just
okay, you're going to do that, or either that saying like you're going to physically assault somebody. And the thing is, anyone who's watching this video right now, you think I'm joking? I'm not. There is some really just it's funny, but it's crazy. People are
no.
showing how they really feel, and I've made this statement before in the show that a lot of these people who hate Donald Trump, fear Donald Trump, secretly want to be like Donald Trump. And I don't know if there's a psychological, because you've had a lot of therapists and
Or
psychologists on
or
your show, and they
or they
secretly.
see themselves in him and they hate that part of themselves.
Yes, and I don't know what the terminology is. Maybe you could have some therapists or psychologists on your show where you could maybe break down Trump derangement syndrome and actually really bring up like the terms of it, because I know you've had a lot of great conversations on your show in the past. I've watched your show, you do a lot of great stuff there, but
Thank you.
I have to wonder.
Well, it's like
the
and
projection is real.
Jimmy
Sorry.
Dore
Yeah.
talks about Carl Jung and the shadow self, and I've done a lot of shadow work myself. I've done a whole very thick workbook on shadow work, and the idea is that like the things that you don't like and about people, and what you see is that is actually in your shadow, and that's your unconscious self.
Yes.
And that you don't like that part of yourself, but you don't know that you have it because it's in your subconscious. And so therefore you project it out onto other people, which is why I always encourage people, whether it's politics or when you're being mean to someone on social media or bullying a reality TV cast member or something, stop for a second, look inside and ask yourself, what is happening within me that is making me feel this way towards somebody else? Because that's when you can first start to tap into what is it that has me so angry, because it's always about you. It's never actually about that other person.
And I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I like that shadow self, but there's another concept that I guess made up for myself. And maybe it's just more of, let's say there's a person, and I have a few people who I've had, really big, like, I don't like you. And I call them like my mirror, like you are me. If I wasn't hardworking or dedicated and didn't purposely be a thorn in your side, like there's some moments where I look at a person and be like, you are my mirror. If I made the wrong choices, I look at you and I realize, okay, I have to be better. And see, the thing is, a controversial statement, 3, 2, 1. I think it's okay to hate just a little bit, just to hate a person, not a group of people. Like if there's somebody that you just don't like, but then you can't let them control you. You can't let them live in your mind, because then you're never going to live life. And you got to find things that bring joy to you, like working out, talking to your friends, I don't know, brewing some tea or coffee and just having a moment to yourself, or use that, just going into your work. Because one of the things I like to do, I like to go into my work, and that's a problem in its own right, because I got to sometimes decompress away from work. But it just these are things that make me happy. But it always reminds me, like, what you're doing all this stuff and it's building who you are. But occasionally that person does come into my mind, like a person I don't like, and I've met them in my lifetime, where if I don't stay dedicated to myself and improving myself, I am going to be them, and I don't want that.
Yes.
That's not going to be me.
I think that's a really good way to kind of like keep yourself in check, actually. I do that. Sometimes I look at like other reality cast members and I'm like, if I didn't have A, B, C, or D, if I didn't have integrity, or if I didn't have like the, my number one value of like making money, for example, I'm like, man, I could be that. Or sometimes I ask myself, man, I wish I didn't like care so much about politics, because you lose a lot of doing what you do. And I do it to a much lesser extent occasionally here on a podcast or on a show like yours. But I feel like the way that people are, like putting themselves out there on controversial stuff, it's very easy to like not do that. I get like not do that. It's
Yeah,
very easy to hawk
it's
some supplements or something that
yeah,
you can make money selling, and or you know, a lot of people that come from reality TV, they just always talk about the next season, the next show, and they just stay in that world. And like, that's
yeah,
not the world for me, and to each their own on that. But like,
yeah.
it does kind of get to that kind of like internal thing of like, this could have been me
Mm.
in a worse version or a better version. I'm sure happens too. And
Yeah.
I think it is good to kind of reflect it back on yourself.
Yeah, yeah. There are people who I also look at, and I use this thing of what works for you, Nick, might not work for me, but what works for me might not work for you. And there are people who I've also compared to who I know are maybe in a little better spot, and I think, okay, they're doing this. How can I match it to their level at my pace? What do I have to do to improve myself? What are they teaching? And see, the thing is, I don't like this jealousy aspect. I remember this post from Lil Duval. You know, he made this song like "Smile, Bitch." I don't know if I can swear. Sorry, but yeah. You know,
I don't care. I'm you can swear.
Living my best life, right? And I like that song. I really do. But he posted this tweet, and it resonated. It was before Hardlands Media really started taking off. And again, we're slowly growing. There's a lot of stuff that we've been dealing with online censorship and everything else. But he posted this tweet that still stays with me. If someone is doing better than you and more successful, would you still be happy for them? And my answer is yes, because now I'm wondering, okay, how did they do it? What do I need to do? Because I can't hate a person because, oh wow, okay, they're in a movie, or they got millions of subscribers.
It's such a bad place to sit.
And it is, but and then also it isn't, because it's like, I knew this person, I'm happy for them. And there's a lot of people I know who have made a lot of success, and I'm like, very good, I'm happy for you. Now I got to do it for myself. But instead of, oh, I hate you, it's more of, all right, well, they did it. Kit, what's your? It's
excuse? Like you use it as an inspiration.
Yeah, and I've actually had people twice in my life tell me that they were jealous of me, and I'm like, really, dude? Because you don't know what demons and monsters I have to deal with. You don't know what kind of things I have to do. Because there are some political stories that I don't like talking about, but I do have to talk about, especially with the election, or talking about certain individuals, or either that, occasionally defending people too. Like, for example, again, I'm going to be very careful with this one, but as we all know, The Onion recently bought InfoWars, right? Yeah. and on one hand, it's kind of funny. It kind of is, but
hilarious. Then it couldn't have gone any more satire.
it is, and it isn't. When you find out, like, The Onion was supposed to be satire to corporate media, but then you realize that The Onion got bought by Univision, that then also got bought by another corporation that liquidated all these other magazines that used to be around like 4 years ago. And it's like, oh my God, will The Onion be liquidated? And now InfoWars, and see, the thing is, here was my coverage of it. Like, okay, Alex Jones, you don't have to like him. I'm not asking that. But it's more of, okay, when he was deplatformed way back in 2018, right? People were jumping up for joy for that. But I said, no, this is bad, because now everyone's going to be put on the chopping block. Now everyone's going to be censored. And it did happen to libertarians, Greens, socialists, progressives, independents, because it was the opening for, oh, well, this
they showed they could do it, and people would allow it if people didn't like that speech. And people forget that free speech is actually there to protect speech you don't agree with, not the speech that you do.
Now, I want to be clear. What Alex Jones was saying and all this other stuff, I didn't like what he was saying. And for the families, what happened at Sandy Hook, I am so sorry for the loss of your loved ones.
Yeah.
But now I'm wondering, okay, you have a corporate entity that's holding The Onion as a puppet that now owns and has control of InfoWars. What Pandora's box are we opening up here? Because people can laugh at this, and I got part of me laughs, but another part of me is like, okay, what does this, what precedent does this set going forward? And I understand people saying, well, you just can't be saying or hurting families' feelings, which I agree with 100%. But there's also other small caveats of things that we have to take away from that. And then there's also defending a politician, where AOC went on air saying that Tulsi Gabbard is a danger. Okay, or shouldn't be in office. You got to explain why. If you're going to give a word salad and not give reasonings to why, I'm not going to take you seriously. Give me reasons, more reasons. And before anyone says Russian puppet or Syrian puppet or secret plant, that was done up by the Clinton campaign. That was done up by Hillary Clinton and corporate media to smear Tulsi Gabbard. And I can understand why Tulsi Gabbard went to the Republican side. I can understand that. But you got to give constructive arguments about why someone's a danger, instead of, oh, they're this and that. Because you're telling me that a lieutenant colonel in the United States Hawaiian National Guard and also serves as
Former
congresswoman
Yep.
is somehow a spy. Well, where's the FBI, CIA, NIS? You know, wait, NSA. Why did I say NIS?
Yeah, NSA.
Yeah, NSA. Where are they at? Because they should be on that, like, you know, fire
White
on
on rice.
gasoline. Yeah, white on rice.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, there you go. Or fire on gasoline. You know, like where you need to do this because you're making a serious accusation about a person who could be a threat to national security. Like, where are these agencies at? They better not say, well, the case died. That was like 5 years ago. You tell me in 5 years they don't have information? Come on.
Because it isn't.
Yeah.
There isn't information. And here's the thing, like with Alex Jones, I think most of the stuff that he's been right about a few things. I will say that. He's been wrong about a lot of things too. But what the way that Alex Jones, and he's grown in popularity since they deplatformed him. But the thing with Alex Jones for years and years and years with InfoWars is there was so much speech combating the crazy things that he would say that he was never, with his misinformation, disinformation, whatever that is, he was never given or afforded a platform bigger than he had created for himself, because there was better speech counteracting that maybe Barack Obama isn't Satan or a lizard person or whatever crazy thing he was saying about the flies landing on him and he smells like sulfur. Like, because people know, like people, you've got to trust that people can assess information and make their own decision. And when something is bad or wrong, you counteract that with everybody telling you this is a terrible idea or this is not true and here's why. And we live in a place now, and social media certainly doesn't help, where people can just say something that goes against what the narrative is, and then all of a sudden they're deplatformed. Look at COVID, everything that happened with COVID. Look at everything that happened with Julian Assange. There's still people out there that think, he's some sort of, horrible criminal and that he leaked. It's just crazy. The way that they can control the narrative.
Yeah,
I know, me too.
Here's another thing too, because as soon as Alex Jones got deplatformed, I said this on the radio. And I said, you do realize what you did now as well, people who are cheering for Alex Jones being deplatformed. You just added legitimacy to one of his statements. They're going to censor me. They're going to silence me. They're going to deplatform me. And now he could say to his people, I told you that they were going to do this to me. I told you they were going to do this and they were going to do that. And I get it. Look, I understand what he said. God awful. But if you really want to own somebody, debate them. Challenge them in the ideas. And the one way to stop conspiracy or hate speech or vile speech is with good, intelligent speech, not just relying on deplatforming works. Because when Tucker Carlson now, for example, when he got kicked off of Fox News, you were so stupid because he didn't have advertisers to worry about. He had his audience. And then when you have AOC saying deplatforming works, no, it doesn't.
For what?
For nobody.
For what?
For nobody. I'm the world heavyweight champion, I think, for my channel being hit. I mean, we've gone through the rodeo
like 7 times, right?
Actually, a little bit higher than that. Like I think 9 times now, and it's not fun. It's not, and the reasons why we got hit were BS reasons. First one always still ticks me off is we were covering what happened on January 6th, and yet YouTube's algorithm was saying, "Oh, you said that Biden wasn't president." We never said that. We never said that.
You didn't.
We never said that. We just said, "Hey, this is a more or less short filter. This is pretty crazy. This is happening on January 6th. That was it." Or is it at what was happening to Assange or something else? Like in regards to the pandemic, we were covering how CNN was smearing Joe Rogan. YouTube said I was giving out medical misinformation. I was covering a story on how CNN was smearing Joe Rogan. I didn't say anything about the vaccine. I didn't say anything about the medicine. I didn't say anything. It's like, hey, they're smearing him, and they got it wrong. And it is not a fun rodeo to be down, and deplatforming doesn't work. And now look what happened to Tucker Carlson. He has the most popular platform on the X account. I call it Phoenix, formerly Twitter. But anyways,
why don't we just call it X Twitter? I mean, that just
I call
works.
it Phoenix. I call it Phoenix because here's my pitch. I would say this to Elon Musk, like, Elon, it's not too late to call it Phoenix because you still keep the bird logo, right? We all know the blue bird logo, but it said you could have X, and merchandising, you could have a cute little plushy Phoenix Firebird to sell to people. Like, it would work, man.
It's your best marketing hat.
That would work. Elon, give me a phone call. Come on, I got ideas, man.
You might get it because I think he's a frequent listener of this show.
Now,
I'm just kidding.
He has to be. He better be. Well, actually, you know what? Trump actually said MSDNC, and I say on my show BSDNC. I think Trump secretly. No, probably not.
So we kind of got on this and then we got off track. But from your assessment, what the hell happened in this election? And to preface this for people, I used qualitative and quantitative data to make my prediction about Trump.
Okay.
And again, objectively, I did not vote for him. I do not support him. I think he's funny, and that's about the extent of it. And I actually do support Make America Healthy Again. But my whole thing, and anyway, by the way, I had Callie Means on my show like before he blew up and was, everybody's like, which is great for him because he's very smart and he should. But one of the reasons I thought Trump was going to win, especially the potential of a landslide, was one, if you look at the polls in the swing states, he was either tied or up in all of them. Mm-hmm. And the polls traditionally undercut Trump's support. So that was point one. Number two, parlay. He was pretty much winning on the betting odds, and people are going to put money where they're going to put their vote, right? That was another point. A third one was his favorability rating was higher than it's ever been. Still negative, but higher than it's ever been. Less negative than it's ever been. And when I started thinking about those things, and you put together like how he always outperforms the polls, and the fact that we've got these other things, these other data points going on, plus the gut feeling like my family's working class. I know exactly why and this is how I grew up, why they would support Trump over Harris. But from your assessment, and there's probably a whole bunch of things we could talk about, but like, I guess high level, what happened in this election that people were so surprised that Kamala wasn't able to pull this off, even though the media was basically calling it or saying it was 50-50, and then she ended up losing in a landslide?
All right. So here's the thing. I want to make a couple things clear, because on my show I said this election could go 50-50. And I say this because the United States lacks election integrity. We're both from Chicago. We both know how votes disappear. And I think it's wrong for us to project our thoughts on the entire nation, but fine, whatever. But it's just something I'm familiar with. 4 generations in this city. That's how long my family's been in here. So like election integrity is an issue. But also number 2, let's start from the beginning. Why things happened the way they were. First of all was Kamala Harris. If we look back in February of 2019 on Martin Luther King Day, I believe, she made her announcement that she was running for president. Started off as a bang, half Hillary Clinton, half Barack Obama. Some people were calling her, right? That she was it. But the more she spoke,
polling very high too, if not first.
Yes, but the more she spoke, and the more people who looked into her past, the more people were going, "Ew, oh, I don't like the way you talk or present yourself." And her campaign went broke. She got decimated twice by Tulsi Gabbard on the debate stage, and she didn't even make it to the first primary. Kamala Harris is a terrible politician who is incapable of following through or finishing the tasks at hand given to her, and her legacy in California in regards to being an attorney, in regards to being, also impacting the lives of working class families, predominantly black families there in the state of California, and prisoners. It's long lasting and brutal, and people looked into that and said, God damn it, she should not be anybody's nominee. And we're not for, again, Tulsi Gabbard and just how she decimated her by calling her out for a past, and how she withheld, how Kamala's office withheld evidence for a black man who was on death row, purposely held that evidence back that could free him. That's also a disgusting thing that Kamala Harris's legacy is. And when Klobuchar was not selected to be the VP, because again, we're looking at the aftermath of George Floyd, you then have Kamala who has an opening, but she was the least popular vice president in U.S. history. Then you have Biden, who clearly was on mental decline. He was not there. I've taken care of 2 senior citizens, and by proxy, my grandmother. I've seen 3 people go through a mental decline, okay? You see the signs, and it goes back to your show talking about trauma and recognizing things. And when I see a senior citizen who is kind of not there. I get the trauma of saying, oh, I remember when my grandpa had that issue, or my uncle or my
Yeah.
grandma had the issue. And then you have he's the commander in chief, and there's a lot of people who respect this country and say, hey, this is the guy who represents us, and he's looking around like, doesn't know where he's at.
Yeah.
So we get to your point, the beginning, the Democratic primary. Yes, there's challengers, but they're not going to be accepted. They're saying Biden's their guy, even though Biden said he was going to be a one-term president. Biden purposely, through his own arrogance and pride, and people around him, made a lie that he was still physically fit for the job. You had RFK Jr., Marianne Williamson, Representative Dean Phillips, and by some extent, Cenk Uygur. I don't know why he was thinking about running in the first place, the idiot, in a Democratic primary that no one was acknowledging. They were remaking the rules to benefit Biden. So if you were a Democratic voter, you weren't even getting a participation sticker. Like the game was already set.
I voted for Marianne Williamson in the primary, and my vote literally didn't count.
Exactly. And the problem is that people saw it, and it's a lack of engagement. And RFK Jr. made his run as an independent. And then we get to some big things.
He would have won, by the way. If they had a primary, I think RFK would have won, because Biden wasn't going to hold up in any debate. But if they ran an honest primary, I think RFK would have won.
Again, honest primary, maybe in an alternate dimension. We would have seen something like that. But then if we look at the Republican primary, there are no superdelegates. The establishment doesn't control too much. And again, Republicans are just like Democrats. The Republican Party, again, we're looking at leadership. There's always an establishment narrative.
And what are superdelegates, just for the audience if they don't know?
So the Democratic Party has a thing called superdelegates, in which the party behind closed doors has people who have the super vote to outweigh what regular voters have. So in other words, the party decides who the nominee will be, and those superdelegates weigh in with the other delegates on who will be their party's nominee. And the superdelegates have more push and pull in the Democratic Party's process in selecting a nominee. It's their fail-safe method to make sure that they will never have anybody that they deem would be weak against the opposition. The Republican Party,
by the way, this is proven in court. When they were sued after 2016, and they said, the Democratic Party said in this lawsuit, we are a private organization, and we could select our candidate in a smoke-filled back room if that's the way we choose to go.
Exactly.
And that's what we literally got this time.
And that is what we got. And now for the Republican primary, it's more Democratic than the Democratic primary, okay? Because Republican voters pick who they want. And the Republican Party had not one but 3 primary debates. Who did they talk about the most? Trump. Trump didn't attend any of those debates, and he still won them because they talked about him. Trump had an interview with the first one with Tucker Carlson. Then he had his own event, and then I forget what he did for the third one. Trump was able to outmaneuver the Republican Party trying to pick who they want as their nominee. Trump won the nomination process. Then you have the first debate that Biden had with Trump, and it was so sad to see. Even Trump
that went off the rails around 7 minutes. I was timing. Yes. I'm like, I don't know how long until this goes. It went out about 7 minutes.
Yeah,
it was off the rails.
As soon as Biden was speaking and stuttering and stammering, I mean, there's points where you're like, Trump's looking at the moderators and looking at the camera, like, "Hey guys, can you believe this?"
I think he took it easy on him.
Yeah, he did, because he wasn't there.
He felt bad.
Yeah, I think from rare moments, I think Trump grew a heart that day. Don't worry, he ripped it out. But then. But then on top of that, a perfect storm, a horrific storm came around the horizon. Trump survived an attempt not once but twice on his life where he got shot at. And there's that iconic photo of him telling his people to fight, fight, fight. And that photo is the $1 billion shot where the American flag is up there and Secret Service is surrounding and covering him, and he has his fist in the air. I don't care where you stand politically or how you feel about Trump. That's an iconic photo. And then it happened again to him. I mean, his boost in popularity. Then there's oh wait, I almost forgot the Trump mugshot. This man was dealing with a court trial, like anyone going through a legal process, and he's the defendant, and they clearly have a target on his back. I mean, that also boosted because here you have Trump. He's got a mugshot. Any other politician would be embarrassed or quit. He followed through and went through to the very end. He didn't stop. He kept going forward.
He has no shame.
And the people in Georgia that were going after him, I remember giving this warning. I said, you better hope that this attorney general, this attorney coming after him, they're squeaky clean. that they got no
Of
skeletons in
course.
their closet. And oh wait, turns out the lady and the guy had themselves a little secret affair, and there was a lot of shenanigans happening. So that was
What
going on.
what drives me nuts is like for 12 years now, wait, what? No, 10 years now, we'll say, they have put everything against Trump. Everything in the playbook has been thrown at him. Everyone already knows that he is not a good person, that he's just done some really bad things. He's broken laws just like every other politician has.
Yep.
And they just keep escalating. And the results are always the same. It's like the definition of insanity at this point. Like, beat the guy on the issues, provide a better economic and social agenda for the American people than what he's saying. And I'm not saying he's going to do what he's saying, but there's a lot of stuff that he says that a lot of Americans are like, yeah, I would like inflation to go down. I remember cheaper gas prices. I would like us to have healthy food. I would like us to end the war in Ukraine. And at least he's got a little bit better rhetoric on what's going on with Israel and Palestine. But the Democrats just don't do that.
They can't.
The best parts of Kamala's campaign she never talked about. When she resorted back to calling Trump a fascist, I'm like, man, this tired playbook.
Yeah.
They just keep dusting it off instead of building a economic agenda that works for the American people.
Mhm.
And that's where I think, and now the retro is coming out, right? Oh, maybe Bernie was right.
Mhm.
Maybe Bernie was right all along.
Yeah.
And maybe the people that were saying that in 2016 and to a lesser extent in 2020, maybe when the people were behind him, you should have listened to the fucking people. And now they go in and they get whacked, smashed, whatever.
I mean, come on.
Curb stomped by Trump. And everybody's like, I didn't see this coming. How did you not see this coming?
I mean, we all saw it coming, especially look, the coalition that the Democrats built too. You know, when you tell Arab and Muslim voters and anti-war protesters to sit down, shut up, boo, or I'm speaking, that's not going to work well. When you dismiss people who are calling for an open primary, a fair primary, or is that calling out Biden's mental health, you boo and dismiss them and kick them out. When you build walls around your convention center and have a mass, and I get it, you got to have police force and security.
And
but
you were there on the ground, by the way. I was too at one point.
Jimmy Dore was there, Dissidents, RBN. A lot of people I knew were there. And this is how you treat your people? No wonder you guys are failing miserably. And now the campaign, Kamala, $1 billion disaster that's also $20 million in debt. You had all celebrities, Hollywood, the media. You had all these institutions, and the people, the voters, gave it a middle finger. And while Chicago and Illinois were blue states, yes, I mean, not blue states, but at least blue. Sorry, Illinois state, Chicago being the city. Trump in Chicago alone got 22% of the vote. That's higher than what he got in 2016 and even in 2020. And there is a massive, massive breaking apart of the coalition that Bernie Sanders built in 2016.
There is no coalition anymore.
The voting base that the Democrats had is gone. And then you have AOC going on social media. Hey, can you give me a list of who people are supporting for? Because she was talking to, or who they listen to, like, podcasts. And I'm like, AOC, okay, people were listening to Joe Rogan. Bernie Sanders went on Joe Rogan. And you got upset that Bernie Sanders went on Joe Rogan's show. Like, you were causing a hissy fit.
I remember that.
Yeah. Or wait a minute. Why are you asking for a list of people? Like, because she was surprised that people voted for her in her district. But when it came down to president, a lot of them also voted for Trump. So AOC, there's a reason why these things happen. And Democrats, there's a reason why these things happen is because you left your voting base. You told your people to shut up and just deal with it. Or either that expecting people to go to sleep and eat their brunch. But when people can't afford gas, milk, eggs, or even rent, they're gonna react. And I said that the number one issue was the economy. So you asked what started this. You have Kamala being a failure in 2019. You have Biden being a senile man for 4 years, and that's being covered up by corporate media, Hollywood, Democrats.
Do you think they hung him out to dry in that debate? It happened early. I don't think they gave him any cocktail they did previously.
I don't know if they. Again, when we say cocktail, let's be clear. A lot of people, I've said this on my show too, saying that they had to give him some kind of brain juice for him to be cognitive, or either that be self-aware. I think there might have been a point, and this is just me projecting. I'm speculating here, no proof. So if you're asking my opinion, conspiracy theory time, tinfoil hat. I
Let's
think
put
there
him
was a
on.
point where maybe the leadership was like, okay, we really can't win this. We get ready for 2028. We have Biden, who's too prideful. You have Kamala, who's miserable to work with. Let's just put in a fight. If we win, we win. If we lose, there's always next
That's
time.
what I think
And I
too.
think that's what happened. Then there's also reports that Biden purposely just let Kamala die as well. Because again, those
I
two people,
know.
those two camps
And
didn't
Nancy
like each other.
Pelosi's and Nancy well, she railroaded him in that one debate with That Little Girl Was Me in 2020, and then he committed himself to hiring a diverse woman for his vice president role. So he kind of locked himself in there. But what I thought was interesting that Pelosi said a couple of weeks or maybe days ago, where she said that Joe endorsed Kamala, and he made that decision, and that's basically why they couldn't do a primary. And it makes me wonder if so. I'm putting an even bigger tinfoil hat on. Here's what I think might have happened. That Twitter post that Biden said he was resigning from the election and not going to participate, I don't think he put that out. I think that might have been put out without him knowing. And then they go to him and say, well, it's already out there. You don't really have a choice. So then he responded by immediately endorsing Kamala to say F you to the party. And now you're going to have to deal with this. So you're not going to get to run a primary. And you can't backtrack on who the president endorses if he's not running anymore. And so they kind of got stuck with it.
Yeah.
And we're, to your point, we're just like, I guess we'll see how this goes, but we're really going to be looking forward to 2028. That's total tinfoil hat. I have no proof. It's just kind of my observation of what happened.
It wouldn't surprise me because what would he say, especially when you brought up that lawsuit case in 2016? The Democratic Party is a private institution. It's a private entity, and they can make their own decisions. And because of the way they set up their laws, they shot themselves purposely in the foot. I mean, this is what they. But it was already even too late to even do a primary because now you have to introduce a whole sway of candidates who are in the race now. Okay, who do we vote for? There's going to be such massive confusion. There was no clear idea.
And to open that up, it would have been harder to hold a narrative if they wanted Gavin Newsom, or even if they went with Kamala or whatever. It would have been hard to hold a narrative when everybody jumped back in.
And I think in many ways, probably Kamala's happy that she's not the president. You know, I don't mean to be projecting this, but it's just like she was a terrible vice president. She
did nothing.
And the thing is, she had lower approval ratings than Biden. And if this hurts people's feelings, look at the polling data. Somehow she was absolutely incredible during the time she was running as a campaign. But during the last 3.5 years, wait a minute, she's the worst VP ever. Her approval ratings lower than Biden. There's talks about her hemorrhaging her staff members. She had like 47 people with her, and only like 3 or 4 of them remained. That means 43 or 42 people left her.
It's like 90% turnover.
Yeah, like either one, she's really high demanding, and you got to be fast paced, or 2, she's terrible to work with. And I think it's the mother. She's terrible to work with.
Yeah, I wonder too. One of the things that I think the Democratic and I know we're coming up on time. I want to be respectful of your time.
That's all good.
I had 2 other things I wanted to ask you. I think that the Democratic Party, and I remember talking to my friends who are like casual Democrats, and they were like, "Oh, like I'm glad Biden's out. I don't know how I feel about Kamala." And I think it was because they manufactured in the media joy, if you will. And then I remember telling people, I'm like, as soon as she starts talking, you're going to remember why you don't like her. And again, I'm saying that objectively. I'm not saying that because I'm pro-Trump. Objectively, she started talking and her support started dwindling and people were less excited and the joy went away. And what happened at the same time was Trump's doing McDonald's. Trump's driving around in a garbage truck. And I got to tell you, like Biden, the joy fades, and then Trump, more iconic photos, waving out the drive-through, doing a press conference from the Trump Vance garbage truck. Like, this is great. It's entertaining, but this is like great politics. And what was she doing? She was not doing anything to relate to the American people. And I think that what I'm curious about with your take, and this is really what I wanted to get into, is will the Democrats learn anything from this? Will we get Gavin Newsom or someone? Because there's no bench There is
No.
no bench
There
in the
was.
Democratic Party.
There could have been. There could have been. There could have been a bench.
Yes.
But my answer is no. No way. No, they're doubling down on it because
They'll learn nothing.
Mark my words. Mark my words. I'll make this prediction on your show. All right. I made this prediction on my show too. In the midterm election cycle, guess what all the Democratic candidates who are running for Senate and House are going to focus on? Impeaching Trump. Impeaching. That's going to be their number one thing they're going to run on. They're going to be talking about impeachment of Trump, or is it sending Trump to jail, doing something of that nature.
Little catnip to the liberals.
That is going to be the thing they're going to run on, impeaching him. They are not going to learn their lesson. There was a bench originally. Look, I had high hopes for the squad, but I mean, they could have been great. There could have been a bench, but Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats, the old guard there, the Clintons, the Obamas, all of that. They're making it clear that it's their way how they run the show. It's their way how they run the election. It's their way who they pick as their nominees and who on how the party's going to be run. And this is an extinction level event for the Democratic Party because Nancy Pelosi is now seeking re-election at 84 years old. Look, she's done enough insider
trading.
She's got
some more insider trading to do.
Yeah. She's done plenty of that. So to answer your question, Nick, no, Democrats haven't learned their lesson. And look, you and I made this prediction on my show today, actually. You and I are going to be in a battleground state. And when I mean battleground, we are looking at what the midterms are going to do. You already have Governor J.B. Pritzker wanting to instigate a fight with the new border czar, Tom Homan. And then also you have an ever-rising anti-Democrat movement happening on the south and west side neighborhoods of Chicago against Mayor Brandon Johnson. Not only will we have the midterm election cycle, but seeing how a lot of these districts in Chicago also got more Trump votes than before.
It was alarming, actually. It was higher than I would have ever thought.
22% in the city, 22%. That's pretty big. And I don't want anyone to say, well, that's low numbers. Well, because the reason why those numbers may not be too high is because, again, Chicago politics, it's not that, especially when you hear conservatives or Trumpers who say, oh, Chicago's a communist utopia. You voted for this. No, voter engagement in Chicago is at an abysmal low. But the fact that you have an alternative, conservative, Trump-leaning voice here happening, it also tells you that there's an independent voice rising here in Chicago. So that means the city elections, it is game on. It will be a referendum against Mayor Brandon Johnson and his policies and the city council, which thank God they actually dismissed that raising of the property taxes. My God.
Yeah, I know. That was... I supported Brandon Johnson. I feel like he's in over his head. But the fact that he almost lost to Paul Vallis, who is a Trump-supporting, should be a Republican, like that said a lot to me. That wasn't a 80% victory.
There's a reason why Paul Vallis didn't run as a Republican. Do you know about Chicago? Do you know that big old secret about the Democratic machine here in Chicago?
I mean, I know there's a machine. I don't know if I know this specifically.
All right. I gotta get the person on my show win more detail about this, but here it is. Technically, anyone who's running for mayor, you're running as an independent, right? But then you got to carry the D, wrap it around your neck, have it on your shoulder, hold it in your hand. You got to carry the D. That's why Paul Vallis was a Democrat. You don't have to be a Democrat to run for Chicago politics, but you will become one. You will become one.
That's the machine.
The machine will take you, and so. It is fascinating what could potentially happen in the city. I'm excited for it. I know. So see, when I raise my excitement levels, and I go, wait a minute, Kit, lower your expectations. But who knows? With this attempted recall against Brandon Johnson, with Governor J.B. Pritzker now saying that Illinois is going to be a frontline state, politics should be not the most important, but it will be very interesting to cover here for the midterm in 2026 and the city election in 2027. And we'll be here, and I'm pretty sure you and I are going to be talking about it. And if my prediction is true about how voters are feeling in Chicago, maybe we could see potential high turnout this time around against the Democrat machine and destroying the legacy that was created by Old Man Daley many, many decades ago.
Ugh, it's been nonstop.
Yeah. So
what I think, sorry to go back to 2028, what I think is going to happen is I think they're going to repackage AOC as a progressive and either run her or run someone like Newsom and have her be the VP, because they're they're going to try and repackage the same old shit, I think, but in a nice progressive package that is, really part of the establishment and try to capture that young vote. That's what I think is going to happen. But I cannot imagine losing to Trump twice, almost 3 times. By the way, I was like, if we would have just let him win in 2020, we'd be done with him.
I'm going to make a long shot prediction. I'm going to make a long shot prediction just to make people laugh or be like, oh, here we go again. Or how long will we go through this? Once Trump's done as president, one of his kids is going to run for president in 2020. So that way the Democrats still have to face off against a Trump.
I totally agree with
if
that.
Donald Trump Jr. does that and chooses to throw his hat in the ring and say, hey, I'm going to run for president. It'll be funny. Honestly,
it will be funny.
It'll be funny, but it's just like, okay, Democrats facing off against another Trump now. Here we go again.
Oh my God. It's never ending. Last thing I want to ask you, what we saw here, in my view, was the death of the mainstream media. CNN's doing mass layoffs. Yes. MSNBC, CNN, they've all dropped significant viewerships. We saw Trump do his rounds on the podcasts like Theo Vaughn. He was on The Undertaker's podcast. He was obviously on Joe Rogan.
Yes.
I mean, he made his rounds, and I guess Barron was his advisor on those podcasts, and go that route instead.
Good for Barron.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was smart. And so what I wanted to ask you, as someone you've been in independent media forever, 8 years now, 7 years now.
7 years now. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been, and you're in the field. Like, you don't just sit behind your house. You're at the DNC convention. Yep. You talk to regular people like me, and you have regular people on your show all the time.
Yeah.
So when we look at moving forward, like, what is the mainstream media going to do? Like, you've got Chris Wallace saying he's going to streaming now. It's like, Chris Wallace, it's not that you're just going to take your boring opinion and put it on streaming that's going to turn anything around. It's like what you say and how you conduct yourself. It's the content itself, not necessarily the platform. So what do you think these mainstream media outlets are going to do? Because they're folding very, very quickly. And how do you think that they're going to react to this epic funeral of their relevance?
They're going to all become irrelevant. I think Fox News might be the last one standing because they're somewhat entertaining, but then again, too,
their audience is like 70 plus years old.
Precisely. And not to mention, they lost Tucker Carlson, which was the dumbest thing they could ever do.
You guys still got Sean Hannity.
Yeah. Wow. Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-freaking-doo. Fox News will be the last one standing, but we're witnessing, just like with the Democrats, an extinction level event. The old way to get information is dying, and even though corporate media had to bully its way onto YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, nobody's tuning in because the content is stale. The reporters, the quote-unquote journalists, get it wrong. You have overpaid actors. How better yet, you have overpaid reactors reading a script and following orders from the corporate overlords who control our politicians. That's why there's nothing but access there. We are seeing it fall apart because people don't trust the institutions anymore. They don't trust their politicians. They don't trust the media, and the media is going to die. Corporate media cannot withstand and live in the day and age in which the internet is a powerhouse. And just to add a few more things into it, when these pundits, these people who are going to be taking a pay cut, are also going to realize too, they're not as popular as they think they are. All right. And they should have taken the hint. All of them should have taken the hint when CNN did their CNN Plus that only lasted for 1 month, and they spent $250 million for it, and it was gone like that. These people are not smart. They're not intelligent, and they're not serious. And then when they come into our backyard, and Nick, I'm going to say this is our backyard. If you're going to come into our backyard with your stale content and thinking you're back on CNN, well, I'm so sorry. Cry me a river. No one cares if you're going to rage quit on Twitter, Don Lemon or Joy Reid. No one cares if you're going to end your Twitter account.
Hasn't Don Lemon not deleted his account either?
He did. I found it out on my show.
He did. Okay.
He did. He did it today. So when I went to look at his account, he deleted it. No one cares. Yeah, you might have an audience, but you're not going to be making the buku bucks that you made at CNN. And you were better off staying on X because, yes, X is more popular. Whether you like Elon Musk or not, it is a place where a lot of news is happening. It is a platform. And if you can't stand the toxicity or the bullyingness on the internet, then the internet's not for you. There are look, and don't get me, there are people who don't like me.
Still be kind to people.
Exactly,
I still think people should be kind.
Exactly. There are people who don't like me. Oh no, somebody said something mean about Hard Lens Media. Oh, boo hoo 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 hoo. Cry me a river. I got better things to worry about. I got personal issues to worry about. I got my own self to worry about than what somebody says about me. If they don't like me, fine. Guess what? Nobody's going to like you. There's some people going to like you. Some people are indifferent. And some people just flat out hate you. Done.
Have you seen that meme that's floating around that's like, imagine hating me while I'm sitting here on my bed petting my dog?
Yeah.
It's like, that's how I feel, because a lot of people hate me too. And I'm like,
get over yourself.
A lot of times it's like, okay, imagine like I'm just sitting here sharing how I feel about something or encouraging you to vote. And you're so angry that you make 3 clicks to go unfollow me, or that you're so angry you do however many types it takes to write a comment or send a DM. It's like, that is not about me.
Yeah, like
that's about you.
Like, get over yourself, okay?
Yeah.
Number one. And number
unfollow. That's my favorite, when someone messages me to tell me they unfollowed me.
Yeah. If you unfollow me, fine. Whatever. You didn't have to tell me that. It's just showing that also these pundits, they're not ready for this environment, this new day and age. And people who were once relevant will become irrelevant. And my job here at Hard Lens Media is to make sure that we adapt, we cover the news, give our perspectives. And I always tell my audience, make your own conclusions, make your own opinions, do your own research, and listen to people who might have different perspectives and points of view. Like I'm going to have you co-host on my show on Friday, and I'm going to tell people like, hey, check out Nick's content in regards to mental health and emotional health and dealing with trauma. These are things that everyone across the political spectrum of generations can understand and relate to. But I tell people, look at different perspectives and points of view, become a well-rounded person. And you don't have to listen to me, but if anything, that's why I say I'm proud of my audience. Make your own decisions. Vote however which way you want. And if people are going to bully you, you push them right back. It's okay to swing at a bully. Well, don't try not to do that in real life, because there's consequences to actions. But anyways, you just got to realize you got to have a thick skin. And I think, to answer your question, corporate media is going to die out. Again, it's not going to happen tomorrow or next year, but they're going to be hemorrhaging money, hemorrhaging people, and the quote unquote talent on air. They might think that they're popular, but they're not. It's all just their manufactured. Gone. The 90s and early 2000s are gone. And corporate media can only bully the social media algorithm for so long, because people still have the choice of, I don't want to click on this video. I'm going to watch something else.
Well, you're going to anger people, and then they'll unfollow. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Although I will say, like, the way Chris Cuomo has been talking since the convention, when he finally, now that he's on News Nation, like, I do think we're going to see more of that, but I think we're going to see it from the Chris Wallace podcast or the Chris Wallace YouTube show. And it's just still going to fall so flat, because they won't ever actually call it out.
And the thing is, how stupid. Here's the thing. Again, how stupid is Don Lemon, where he had like a golden bag with Elon Musk having that show and then having that interview? Because if I interviewed Elon Musk, there's a lot of things I'd ask him about. But hey, Charlie screwed the pooch on that. And even Elon was like, I gave you this interview. This is irrelevant. How dare you? It's like, you had a chance. You had the bag. You could have done something with your network, and you flush it down the toilet because you think there's toxicity on X. There's always been toxicity everywhere.
Yeah, there is, and it's on every social media platform. And then the fact that he didn't even bother to have a good argument for being against free speech, like that's that interview, right, where they were arguing about free speech, and it's like, it's terrible. I hope that more and more people wake up to independent media. I tell people all the time, I get my news from YouTube. I get it from Instagram. I get it occasionally from Twitter. I get it from listening to podcasts, because I want to hear things thought out. I want to make my own conclusions. And that's what I encourage people to do. If someone's telling you something or telling you how to feel or telling you what to think, you are most likely being propagandized. And you should really take in information that you agree with and information that you don't, so you can get all perspectives and formulate your own opinion.
Precisely and exactly. And, again, that's why I like hanging out with you. That's why I wanted you on my show. We were covering election night, because I think you really brought up a lot of good points about mental health, trauma, what this election's doing. And look, you were correct, because right when we got done with the live stream, it was like, I think 12:30 when they finally called it. Because after a while, I was like, I'm getting burnt out, and then I got to cover.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was so tired.
Yeah,
for
but here's the
days.
thing: I had to do a morning live stream. You were like, dude, what the hell? Like, I remember.
I'm like, how are you? I was literally like, for days, my brain was, I'm like, I don't know how you do this every day, because you were up all night. And then sure enough, I get the alert, 9 a.m. You're
9
back
a.m.
live. I'm like,
back
oh
live. Yeah. Well, one, I had
So-
to brew some coffee. I had to get myself ready for it. And you want to know what it is? It's just it's one of my ways of dealing with some trauma, and that is work. It's not the healthiest
It's a trauma
thing to
response.
do. It is.
No, it is a trauma response.
It is a trauma response, but it's more.
I do it too.
It does make me happy, but there are moments where it's like it's a tough thing. But no one held a gun to my head, and nothing's going to stop me from doing the job I like. And my audience made me. My audience made my channel. Like somebody said, "Hey, Kit, you know, there would be no us without you." And on the one hand, I get it, but there would not be me without the show, without all of you supporting and building it up and liking my content, and also liking my opinion and perspective. I got to remember that when I put, this blazer on, when I,
put your pants on.
Yeah, put my pants on, all that stuff. Only content creator who's wearing pants. There you go. I'm not only doing it for myself, but I'm doing it for something that I love, that I want to see have, at least longevity even after I'm gone. I want to see Heartlands meet, I won't see it because I'll be dead, but I want it to have that relevance here in Chicago when I'm gone, and I want it to still be here. And I do it for my people, I do it for myself, and I do it for what I want to leave behind. And yes, someday I'll be dead and no one's really going to think about me, and that's fine, whatever. But I care about
now
what
you
I've
sound
done.
like Mike Tyson talking to that little girl reporter. Did you see that video? Where he was like talking about oh, it's new. I just saw it this morning. He's talking about legacy. It's this little young, probably 10, 12-year-old reporter. And his whole thing, I'll send it to you. His whole thing was like, who cares about legacy? Because no one's going to care when I'm dead.
Exactly. My grandpa,
Yeah.
I was thinking about my grandpa too, when he said like, hey, we're all going to be dead. No one's really going to be thinking about you. I guess there are names that will survive the test of time and people, but again, no one's really thinking about you. And it's something that you have to deal with, but it's what gets me through is just, I love this, and I will do this for as long as I can until I am gone. And this year's been very traumatic for me. I almost lost everything, and I'm dealing with a lot of other trauma as well. I don't want to go too much into it. I got another relative, somebody very close to me, who's sick, and I'm dealing with that. And yes, I do unplug from the internet, but I also go into my work, and it's something that makes me joy, because I know that the more I put into it, the more I'm getting out. And I have been seeing some very positive numbers and more people supporting my network across the political spectrum. And now I get some people, I don't agree with your take on that, Kid, but I still love you. Like, okay, whatever. Like, it's fine. That's fine. But I love this.
It's healthy.
And it's my way of dealing with things. And as time progresses, I hope to build a bigger network, studio, have a team, and just live my life for as long as I can, because no one's guaranteed a full life. And one last note here too, because I want to say this to the TikTok people. You never know when your friend, the Grim Reaper, is going to be coming around. Are you sure you want to cut off all your ties with your family? Because you want their last words to be, yeah, I don't like because you voted for Trump. And then, how? That's your last words you said to them. There's no redos, no reset. That's only in video games. You can't do that in real life. So make peace and learn to love each other, folks. We got 4 years of madness. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Before we head out, is there anything you want to ask me? I think I forgot to say that at the beginning, but to ask me anything at the end if you've got anything you want to ask me.
All right, Nick. Okay, so hold on. I'm going to be shooting this from the hip now, because I think
I forgot
we
to
did, but
remind
we kind of forgot it. So, Nick, let me ask you this: these 4 years, what are you planning on improving yourself on?
Oh, that's a really, really, really good question. Actually, work-life balance, and not just with my job where I lead a marketing and product team at a software company. I've gotten much better at that work-life balance, but I, like you, I take on a lot of stuff. And it's to the point where, when I see my therapist, sometimes she's like, are all of these things actually serving you? And so I recently, for example, I took about a 6-week break from my podcast. And I did that because I was feeling overtired, burnt out. And then I kind of being away from it, I realized, hey, you know what? I don't make a lot of money from this. I actually make not hardly any money from this for the amount of time I put into it. But it, like having these conversations with you or with whomever my guest is, that actually lights me up. And it's a lot of work, as you know, to edit and write descriptions and post and make cover art and all the things that people don't even realize go into it unless you do it, right? And so, that. But I just recently threw a singles event here in Chicago, and I'm going to throw more of those. I actually have people at bars reaching out, asking for more of those. So it's like I just gave myself another job to do. But what I'm really focused on over the next 4 years is I'm going to balance my life out. I'm going to make sure that I don't just take things on to keep myself distracted from the things that aren't going well or the things that upset me. The second thing is I've had really, I don't want to say I've always focused on my health and my wellness, at least for the last 8 years or so. But I almost have this so this is where I was this week. I have this hip injury that I've had for several years now, and it's kind of put me in this. Again, I say mortality, but I don't think I'm going to die. But I had a doctor that was like, "You're going to need a hip replacement," and I was like, "I'm 39 years old." And so I went this week and I went to Las Vegas and I saw a specialist, a doctor who does stem cell work. And so I had a stem cell procedure, which I documented for this podcast for everyone. So if you're listening now, in a couple of weeks, you'll get to see my interview with him and the whole process. But it kind of forced me to really start thinking about my mortality and the things that I want in life. And that is I have been eating much better. I have been working out better. I'm in the best shape of my life. And I want to keep doing that. And I want to find someone that I can share my life with. And I have to focus on those things because they're not just going to happen if I keep myself distracted. So it's finding that balance, getting healthy, and really honing in on the things that I know I want for my life and I know that I deserve, like having a partner and having kids and that kind of stuff that I'm really focused on, because in 4 years from now, I would actually love to maybe be married and have a kid and be in phenomenal shape and know that even at 44 years old, I am fit enough to be raising a kid. I am fit enough to be living my best life and not having chronic health issues. So those are the things that I'm really focused on now that I see going on into the next 4 years. And then also I'd love to be activated by something in politics that makes me want to go out and do some more activism, but we'll see about that.
I think that's a great note to end on, and I can relate to everything you said. Here's, 2024 was a crazy year. A lot of trauma for myself, a lot of good things.
I'm sorry.
And made 2025 be a productive year for everybody else going forward. So, folks, just, live your best lives. And Nick, thank you so much for the privilege of being on your show. And I am very grateful to our friendship and to collaborating in the future, and look forward to having you on the show as a guest as well.
Yes, and I'll be there Friday. Where can people find you and Hard Lens?
Hard Lens Media, we are now live on YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, Kick, and now on X, Twitter. So we're live on 6 platforms, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central, all the time, every time, Monday through Friday. Yes, I take the weekends off because I do have to decompress. We also have a TV show.
Sometimes you do a Sunday show, don't you? A brunch?
Occasionally, I call it the lunch brunch special, or the super brunch special. Anyways, I got to come up with better names with it. But those are few and far between because I like my Sundays off and I like my Saturdays off. No. So, folks, I only can cover politics so much until I go crazy. But we have a TV show on Can TV as well. We have interviews with a lot of great guests and collaborators and other great people. And I just love the show. Yes, we have a Facebook, Instagram, X account. We are on Discord. And if you want to help us out, we have a PayPal and Patreon link. And always eternally grateful to be speaking to new people. And just listen, folks, just live life to the full. So Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central, YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, Kick, and on X.
And I will be on the show this Friday unless something goes completely out of plan. But all of those links are in the show notes below. Mm-hmm. So make sure you check it out. Go subscribe. You're on your way to 100,000 subscribers as well. So make sure you click that subscribe button.
Halfway there. Well, hopefully we get there.
You'll get there. All right. Thanks again for coming by and talking about this election and what the hell's going on next. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Eyes Wide Open. If you enjoy the show, the best way to support us is by sharing or dropping a review. For more information and content, check out engagewithnick.com or find me on Instagram at nthompson513. Don't go through life blind. Do the work so you can show up in the world with your eyes wide open.